Okay, so very good. Very good to see some people joining in for the meditation tonight. That's quite nice. I was saying, well, not sure where everybody is, but if you're here in Victoria, it's just starting to get dark now. It's still light outside, so it's good. A lot of people wait till it's just before bed, but it's sort of late afternoon now, so it's good that we can take this time together to practice. And even though it's still light outside, we can, whatever's happened in the day, we can put that aside for now, drop that for the moment. And anyone that just hasn't been to one of these sessions before, if this is your first time tuning in, we usually sit for a period of time, say for about 40 minutes to anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour. I give guided meditations throughout, give some instructions, and at the end of that, you're more than welcome to ask some questions. As Srijut said, you can just type it in, and I'll answer the questions after the meditation session. But just for now, we'll start the session. Try to find a comfortable seat. Whether you're sitting cross-legged on the floor or on a chair. Doesn't matter where you're actually sitting, but it is helpful to try to keep the back nice and straight. And again, just before we start, it's good to set the mind up for the meditation that you're about to undergo. You can just make the determination that any thoughts of the day that's passed by, any problems or concerns that you had during the day, that now is just the time to put those aside and lay them down for now. Any thoughts about what you have to do tomorrow or later in the week, any kind of planning, again, we can just put this aside for now. It's not the time to be thinking of these things. It's the time to work on ourselves and improve the quality of our mind. And we can only do this if we try to remain in the present and remain with our meditation object as much as we can. So just make the determination, this time that we have to spend meditating, that we won't waste it. And if we do find ourselves lost in thought, that we'll just attempt to come back to our meditation object. This time you have is precious, so we try to make the most of it. And we can start by bringing our attention to the feeling of the body sitting here in this place at this time. Just try to scan it and see exactly how it feels right now. There might be a few small discomforts in the body. Might feel comfortable in some areas. You can feel your body pressed against the seat or your feet touching the floor or your hands resting on your lap. However this body feels right now, the sensations coursing through it. Just try to take it all in and observe it for exactly what it is. Again, simply just taking stock of what's happening in the present moment. You can notice the sounds in the room and maybe the sound of my voice. And we can also take stock of how we're feeling in this moment. Do we feel restless? Feel tired? You feel at ease? However it is that you're feeling, kind of emotions and the mood that permeates your experience at this moment. Again, just notice it for what it is right now. And that just right now, that your experience is just this way. You don't experience any other reality besides this one right now. So just try to sink into this moment and keep your awareness open to exactly what is in the present, the sounds, the sensations in the body, the different moods and emotions, the kind of thought patterns that are arising. Pay attention to these for the next few moments and just try to let them be. as your mind and your thoughts start to simmer and settle down, you can rest your attention on the feeling of the breath coming in and going out. So allow the breath to follow its natural rhythm. And simply observe it and follow it. And let your attention rest in this spot where you feel the breath come in and go out. Simply watch it. There's no need to analyze. Just merely watch the tide of the breath come in and go out. Just like you were sitting on the shore of a beach, watching the waves roll in and roll out. Just rest your mind and rest your attention on this process. any outflowings of the mind, any thoughts that wander off in a slipstream. If you notice this, just gather your attention back together and let it rest at this place where the breath comes in and goes out. Try to softly hold your attention in this spot. And not let it wander off too far. If the mind starts to calm down, just leave your attention in this place, in this spot that you've placed it. And even if the breath starts to become very refined and hard to notice and shallow, just leave your attention there. Re-establish your awareness on this point. Attend to this point where the breath comes in and goes out. And as you attend to this point, try to look for the one who is paying attention. Where is this attention coming from? Who is this attention coming from? Try to find the center from which attention and awareness emanates. Is there a point that it comes from? Is there someone there who controls it? Or is it merely just appearing? This feeling that you have, that you're back here somewhere, paying attention to this breath that may be in front of you. Try to examine this feeling that you think is me. Is there any substance to it? Is there any center to it? Or is this feeling of me just simply another appearance in your experience? Any thoughts of doubt or confusion about this? Look for the thinker of those thoughts. Try to find the one who is thinking, the one who is paying attention, the one who is aware. And the closer you look, the less you find. For the next few minutes, periodically, just try to turn your attention back on itself, back on the thinker, back on the experiencer, and let your mind rest in that space. When it starts to move again, you can simply just return back to the breath. But periodically, turn attention back on itself. last few minutes of the session, and just bring your awareness back to the sensations coursing throughout the body. There might be feelings of aches or pains, or the body might feel light and buoyant. Just try to bring your awareness back to the sphere of the body and any sounds in the room. Again, just try to re-establish this feeling of merely sitting here. You can slowly start to make adjustments to your posture. Become more aware of your surroundings, the sounds, the temperature in the room. Try to notice this change as a more normal mode of awareness comes back online. So hopefully you all had a nice, peaceful sit. It was beneficial. And if anybody does have any questions, you're more than welcome to either type them into the YouTube chat, or you can jump on the Zoom and ask in person. Everybody's very peaceful, very calm. Nobody's asking any questions. Everybody's mind is bright and clear and free of defilements, free of doubt, free of worry. When you do type your questions in, by the way, just if it's a good habit to develop to just type in question and then ask the question in YouTube if you're doing using the YouTube chat. It's a good habit.
There's one question here, Ajahn. So it's Namaste. How do monks meditate when they are down with headaches?
Yeah. So, there's a few different ways. So I actually, you're speaking to a little bit of an expert on this. I used to get very, very bad headaches. Still do from time to time. And I actually, when I first ordained, when I was a layperson, actually, I used to get like quite bad migraines. And then even moving into my first few years of ordination, I'd still get quite bad migraines. So it's something that it's really hard to do. First and foremost, I'll just sort of put that caveat out there. It's quite hard to do. But like any other kind of physical sensation that you're actually having in the body at any one time, you're noticing it with the same kind of quality of mind. The same way that you'd observe, you could say like a pain in the knee or something, or the same way that you would observe, you could say like any kind of negative mind state that's there, and you just try to observe it for exactly what it is. You can, with some practice, you can do that with bad headaches. It feels harder because the headaches, they're a bit harder to overcome because the headaches feel like they're emanating from the place where you're paying attention from. So it's like, well, how do I pay attention to this thing that's like in the place where I'm paying attention from? So, but that's why actually some of the practice, some of the instructions I gave right towards the end, where you're actually looking more at this feeling of a me, a subjective me that's sort of sitting here, and what actually is this, and where is this sort of attention coming from? If you can do some of these kinds of practices, and then it's sort of the kind of headaches that you have, you can actually just see them as this, this extra kind of pain that's there, wherever you're actually getting the pains in your head. And again, you can just see it as this, it's another feeling, it's another part of Vedana that's arising within your awareness, and it just sort of, potentially just happens to be like in your forehead or behind your eyes or something like that. So it's something you can work with, and it depends how bad the headaches actually are. When it's if you're sort of getting migraines and stuff, sometimes the only thing to do is just ride it out and sit in a dark room and just close your eyes and just sort of ride it out. But it's something you can work with it, and again, just like you'd work with any other kind of pain that's in the body, just by merely observing it, try to watch it arise and pass away, and also if it works for you, take some painkillers as well. It's as a monk, as a Buddhist monk, you ask the way you phrase the questions were, how do monks deal with like headaches when they meditate? Is I take a lot of painkillers, so yeah.
Thanks, Ajahn. Just on that one, I get sort of tension developing as I'm meditating.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think whether that's from just like tension from just trying too hard, trying to concentrate too hard. And one of the ways that I can overcome that is by opening my eyes for a while.
Right. Yeah.
And
True.
then relaxing and then coming back into it. But yeah, I do get. I'm not sure whether the questioner was talking about the tension that develops or the headache that develops while you're actually meditating as well.
Yeah.
So.
Actually, and you bring up a good point. That is a common problem. Some people. I have heard reports of people that do get that. If they, say for example, they might try to watch the breath or something like that, and you sort of get sort of locked up in your own head, and it actually can bring about this feeling of sort of tension, as you said, sort of tension behind the eyes, and this feeling of tension in the forehead and all these kinds of things. So just try to do those different things where you maybe open your eyes, and if it is a headache that's coming from something like that, and you can do those kind of things. So.
Our next question is, I find the Buddhist teachings sometimes a bit depressing because my practice is not going so well, and all is dukkha around us. Any advice? And just a clarification. I mean, the way enlightenment seems so unreachable, and life so full of suffering.
Yeah, it's really something. It is. The Buddhist teachings, it is difficult. Like you can't deny that. You can't deny that it's the you could say like the hardest thing that you're actually going to try to do in your life is train your mind. The hardest thing that you're going to do is try to see through this sort of veil of delusion that we experience, and this is not something that you can just do very quickly. This is not something you can just hear the teachings a few times and you get it, and then all of a sudden everything's all clear. If things were like that, there'd be a lot more enlightened beings in the world. Anybody I don't know, that goes to a yoga studio and wears yoga pants, or they'd probably all be enlightened by now. So it's not an easy path, and it's something that does take time to actually develop. And so at times, it can seem like this, this is so far off. Like I'm practicing, and it's like I've been doing it for, months. I've been doing this for years. I've been, and so it still seems like it's such an insurmountable goal. While those kinds of feelings they're quite normal, like they're quite normal to have, and especially after you've been practicing for a while, and it's just sort of very normal. You've been doing it for a while, but you have to. While these things do come up and it's normal, you also have to consider the alternative as well. How much more suffering will you have if you don't do these things? The Buddha did teach that that everything was dukkha, but how do you opt out of that? Like you can't. You can't go, well, I know the Buddhist teaching is like this, and I know enlightenment seems like a long way off, and I know like things are dukkha, but you can't just go, well, if I just ignore that and don't do anything about it, then it all goes away. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. So it's something, if we can be patient with it and just realize that there's ups and downs in the practice, and sometimes it takes a while to really get the hang of things. If we can sort of do that, we will gradually progress. And a lot of times it's hard to really, you can say it's hard to assess how much you actually have grown and you have developed over the course of time, because we don't really see it. It's, say, for, I don't know how long you've been practicing for, let's just hypothetically say you've been practicing for like 2 years. You might have been practicing for 2 years and you think, oh man, okay, I'm starting to realize like how hard this whole samadhi and like enlightenment thing actually is, and it's like, oh, this just seems insurmountable. And so you might start to have those kinds of thoughts come up. But if you think about the development that you've made in those 2 years, you sort of maybe think a year back, you know, what was your mind like? What was your, you know, what was your sort of like, you know, emotional regulation like? Did you get angry a lot easier? And are you now better able to regulate that kind of anger? Do things that seemed like big problems before, do those kinds of things not worry you as much? And if you sort of really look at the quality of your mind, even though it might seem like an insurmountable thing to get towards enlightenment, that you are actually improving. The quality of your mind is improving if you're keeping up the practice and you're recollecting the teachings quite regularly. And so, unfortunately, sometimes we think that, you know, enlightenment's going to be this like, you know, blinding epiphanistic flash of insight and the world's going to break apart and, you know, everything's, you know, you're just going to, you know, be in the bliss of liberation and all these kinds of things, and it's going to like just the worst shattering experience. But, you know, those experiences are very, very rare, and what it takes to get to those is a lot of small incremental steps to actually get to that point. We a lot of time think it's like, well, I know I want the earth-shattering, like, you know, bliss of enlightenment, but you know, I want that. I'm not getting that. But we do have to just keep taking steps toward us, and if we do keep taking steps toward us, eventually it will happen. But if we stop taking steps toward it, then, you know, things are, you know, it's not like you're going to get any closer to it. So, you know, really just, you know, be patient with it. Just keep practicing, and your mind will actually get better. It mightn't be this, as I said, this overwhelming flash of insight. Wow, I've awoken to the true nature of everything. It mightn't be that, but it might be more along the lines of, hey, you know, like when people say things like this to me, mean things to me, it's like, I don't mind anymore. It's these improvements that actually really, they start to add up. And the more you do this and the more these things add up, the closer you're actually be getting to that closer experience. So yeah, you know, try not to worry about it too much.
Thank you, Ajahn. One more question here. Why does life seem to become more problematic for the ones who start to dissolve his meditation? Sorry, I'm going to read that one again. Yeah, for sure. Why does life seem to become more problematic for the one who starts to dissolve his karma by meditation?
Oh, karma by meditation. Starts to become more problematic. Not sure exactly what they mean by becomes more problematic when you start to dissolve your karma from your meditation. If you'd just like to maybe clarify that a little bit, that would be nice. And I'll ramble for a few seconds and my sort of inference of what you might be talking about. Or jump on the Zoom, one or the other. I guess one thing to consider with that is, let's say you're like 2 years into the practice or something like that, or you're reasonably new, and you start to realize, well, okay, well, there's all these different things happening in my mind and in my life that do seem problematic, kind of thing. And while that can be true to some extent, there's the other side of it where it's potentially maybe what happens a lot of the times is we start to notice a lot more how problematic things already were. You know, our lives are, reasonably chaotic, and where most of the time we've just developed this habit to be able to roll with it, and okay, all these problems are coming, but I can just sort of roll with it. But then when you do start to take up a meditation practice a little bit more, you start to realize it's like, oh, hang on, if I do all these things, and if I get involved in all these things, or the more I feed into this kind of relationship, or feed into this kind of project and problem and all these kinds of things, I'm starting to realize how much stress and suffering that actually puts on me. So it's potentially not that your karma's unraveling and bad things are starting to happen. It's more that you potentially are noticing the process a little bit more. And is there a clarification yet? Or okay, good, yeah. Because I don't know where that one was going.
So they say, sorry, I meant like running into one problem after another constantly.
Right. Yeah, it's again. Yeah, I basically sort of stand by the last answer. I think it's more about that you start to notice it in a lot greater detail. Whereas before, maybe these were problems that you encountered and they just didn't seem like they had the kind of weight that they had before. But now, when you start to practice a little bit more, you become more sensitive to how this is making you react emotionally, and the sort of emotional valence of the mind, but then also the kinds of thought patterns that are around it. You become a lot more sensitive to that. And so any kind of problem that comes in, it might feel like it's much worse than what it actually is, just because you become more sensitive to your responses become more sensitive to that situation. So it's not really something that things are getting worse, and it's more that you're just able to pay more attention to that. In saying that as well, there's another track that you can go down through with that. It's like, well, just because you're meditating doesn't mean the problems that are coming up in your life are coming up because that you're meditating. It might have totally different causes. You might have just hit a rough patch in life and there's more problems now, and that would have happened whether or not you were meditating or not. So I'm not saying this did happen in any way, but to equate one external causes that are out there in the world with a particular kind of something internally that you might be doing, these two things aren't necessarily related. Again, you might have, hypothetically speaking, you started practicing 2 years ago, but maybe the last 2 years have been rough. There's been all these other things that are happening in your life that have just sort of come in on top of that, and the external things that happened in life. But again, it's similar to the last question. You have to remember, it's like, well, if I wasn't meditating, how actually would I be responding? Would I be responding better to this, or would I be responding worse to this? And if most of the time, if we're honest with ourselves, if we're practicing some meditation, even though things are still difficult, you are responding to it in a more objective and reasonable manner. You are responding to it in a better manner. You're able to regulate your emotions a little bit better. You're able to see these things with a little bit more clarity. So yeah, there's that aspect to it as well. It's like it's if you weren't meditating, it's it would be much worse. And just finally, you sort of preface the question by why is the karma sort of becoming changing. It's like, again, it might just be sort of like old causes and conditions that are coming in, old different things that happened in your life. But what you're doing by practicing something like meditation, you are building a new kind of karma. You're putting your mind on a different kind of track as well. So even though maybe some karma is ripening and the fruits of that are ripening in the present or in the present, you're also putting in good causes for those things not to be happening in the future by doing things like meditation and keeping morality and things like that. So again, it's the first noble truth is that things are suffering, and that problems are going to come up in life, whether you meditate or not, whether you're a monk or not, whether you're a layperson or not, whether you're a Buddhist or not, whether you're old or young or whatever situation you're in, you're going to have some kind of problems come up in life. So these are things that you just can't get away from anyway. So actually having a meditation practice, it's actually helping that process more than what is actually hindering it. There's no more question. I don't know if this is going to make the question before this one. I don't know if this was going to make you even more depressed or more despondent than what you already were. But when I was in Thailand and sort of talking to a lot of like the great teachers there, and they're talking about the sort of the realms of existence that we've actually been in and how many times we've actually been born. And I had a teacher say to me once, he said, well, if you can become a Sotapanna, reach the first stage of enlightenment, if you can do that in the next 7 lives, then that's really, really, really quick. So it takes time. If you're thinking about this in the terms of the whole extended torrid realms of samsara and existence, the amount of times that you may have been born and died, it's sort of innumerable and countable. So if you can become enlightened in the next couple of lives, that's actually like pretty quick, cosmically speaking. So you might have been practicing for a couple of years now, but what's like 2 years in the space of the age of the universe kind of thing. It's not that much, so just keep at it. So again, I don't know if that's even more depressing or if that's helpful. When I heard it, it was actually more depressing. I was like, 7 lives, are you kidding me? It's like I can't even get through this weekend, like. So yeah, hopefully it's not too much. Any more questions? We're pretty close to the end anyway. We'll have an early mark then. I thank you all for coming along tonight and for the questions that were asked. Hopefully it was helpful for you in your practice. Again, on the 30th, if you check the BSV website, on the 30th, there's that stage 2A planning meeting. I can't remember the time it actually is, but if you'd like to tune in and just find out exactly what's happening at Newbury with the building plans. This will be very good, very informative. Get to see what's actually going on and all the hard work that's going into it behind the scenes. You might just sort of like look on the website. Oh, that's an awesome picture. This is great. All this is happening. Awesome. Then you might go to Newbury in 6 months. Oh, this is fantastic. All this is happening now. It's like yeah. It's a lot of people working behind the scenes. So you can drop in and see all the hard work that they're doing, and also have a bit of a look at exactly what's happening. And again, on the 7th, it's Sunday, isn't it? Yeah, Sunday the 7th, the robe offering ceremony, again online for Newbury Monastery. It'd be quite nice to do a robe offering ceremony online. Hopefully it will be the last robe offering ceremony online that we have to do for the next few years. So you could be a part of history. So just drop into a robe offering online while they're still happening. Okay, so and with that, all the best, or I'll wish you all good night, and I wish you all the best in your Dhamma practice.